Are young hype beasts killing street fashion, streetwear, the culture? Oh my goodness. This is exactly what the people want to know. But I'm not going to give you what you might expect. Let's be real here. Young people are the driving force behind pop culture. Yes, it's from the overlords. The overlords are sitting there in their corporations with their focus groups trying to figure out what young people like. So they are the driving force. What young people get into is what is going to be the next hot thing. That's always going to be the issue. The difference today is that we experiencing acute tribalism, hyper-consumerism, and easier access to the knowledge that we want to get. But that also means we live in a period of instant gratification. Everything is instant gratification. I've come from a generation where that information was a little bit slower, right? Our whole thing was knowing more about something because we didn't have the ability to just go out to maybe Supreme or go out to the store and pick up our favorite shoe. That's a culturally accepted thing now, but we didn't have that. So our whole thing was knowing about it. Our whole thing was the history. Whoever knew more, that was our thing. Who knew more about this? Who knew more about that? Who knew more about this album, this rapper? That's how it was. But now it is not like that. It's instant gratification. What is hot? I don't really care about the history as much as I care about telling me what's hot right now. And it's easy for a person like me who's a part of that mid-millennial generation. It's easy for me to criticize young people. It's very easy. I could be like, I don't like the music. I don't like the instant gratification. I don't like any of that. I could be a grumpy old millennial. I could be that. But I'm not going to be that, right? We're going to spread this out a little bit. And even saying if I don't like something that young people don't like, they could be like, yo, they can get all up in a tizzy. Be like, man, you just mad because your ass is old. But the thing about older cats who are in street culture, all we really want to know is where you guys are going to take it. Where the young people are going to take it next. Because all we really care about is if you care about the history, the importance of the history, about knowing about these things. You look at a line at Supreme, you've seen the videos on Complex or something like that where they be like, hey, you know what CDG is? And they're like, I have no idea what CDG is, but it's Supreme. Hey, you know what Undercover is? That's a brand in Japan, right? But it's Supreme. You see some of these things right now. And as an older person, you look at and you see the answers to that and you're like, really? You don't know? Right? That's how we look at it. Because you wouldn't catch any of us in my generation, you wouldn't catch us dead not knowing what we're getting into. You wouldn't catch us dead not knowing that. But we have to remember as the older generation that it is not about that anymore. This is an era of instant gratification. So we are searching for the answers. We're searching and we're trying to figure out what's hot right now because things move at a lot faster of a pace. So us blaming young hype beasts for the current state of street fashion is almost self-serving in a way. Because what we're saying is that our way was better. And we can't say that. We can't say that all the way. We were the ones that really spearheaded this movement, this anti-conformity movement, and we passed it down. The only issue is now is that we are closer to the generation afterwards. We are so much closer to the generation afterwards that nobody else, like even before our parents, right? My parents, they have nothing to do with my generation. But the generation after me, Generation Z, we have more in common than ever before because of this information age, because we live in it. You see, the thing is that I grew up in the information age. I saw the formation of Facebook. I lived during MySpace. But some of the kids today, they don't even know what a MySpace is. Right? They don't care what MySpace is. So it's very easy for us to criticize, but understand a lot of these kids, they were born in the information age. That's all they know. All they know is instant gratification and hyperconsumerism. That's all they know. We can't blame them for that. It's the state of society. So what are we looking for? We think about it in terms, I can only think about it in terms of Japan. The youth have a respect for the past. They have a respect for the past that is really uncanny. It's unmatched. They take something that the older generation brings and they learn about it. They continue to formulate it. They continue to adapt it and progress with it at a slower pace. Then what happens is the older generation has to adapt to that. The older generation has to adapt to what is progressing. And what you have is a symbiotic relationship between the older generation and the younger generation, where Japan becomes a place where you see all these styles and a lot of people are like, yo, I love these styles that are coming out of Japan. But really, it's not that. It's not all these styles in Japan. What it is that they keep all the styles. They keep them all. You see styles from 30 years ago still walking around in Japan. I saw an older guy in Japan in my neighborhood. Wearing khakis, chucks, a flannel shirt with a beanie. Looked like he came straight out of East LA. I kid you not, on a lowrider bike in Japan. He had to be like 50, 60 years old. I was like, dang. Cracked me up, man. But then I remembered, this is Japan. That symbiotic relationship between the older and younger generation is incredibly inspiring. And that's not to say that in the West we don't do that. The thing about the West that I love is that young people have a higher sense of self than anybody in the world. Seriously, young people in the West are incredibly confident, almost to the point of arrogance in a way. I remember when I was young, I used to be called arrogant because I was so confident in myself. But young people today, they outpace me by and large. And why is that? Because young people know what's out there. They know what's hot. They know what's going on in the world. They're the most informed generation ever in the history of Western society. They're the most informed. So I'm not trying to blast young people. That's beside the point. We don't need to blast young people. What we need to do is accept that their way is their way. But what we have to do as an older generation is stop criticizing them so much on what it is that they do. We have to let them have this journey. It's their journey. The only problem that I would ever have is when you start crediting certain people with how something came to be. And young people have a tendency to, we used to do this when we were younger. But because information is so vast and easy to get, people have become lazy, right? Somebody actually said one time, like A$AP Rocky or Ian Connor, I believe. It was like, yo, Ian Connor is the reason why Japanese fashion is hot right now. And I had to look at him like, really? Really? Like, y'all wouldn't even know about Japanese fashion if Pharrell had never went to Japan. Remember young Kanye? Young Kanye was the reason why we even knew about certain brands. We had to get our information from things like The Source, from XXL. That's how we got our information, from magazines. That's how we knew it was out. That's how we knew it was hot. We couldn't just hop on the internet. I mean, we had forums and whatnot, but it usually came from a person who knew something that we didn't. We were constantly getting this information. Constantly. And we just can't fathom how fast this information is coming down the pipeline now. We just don't know. And so when we look at young people today, at points in time, we can be disappointed. Like, yo, man, what is going on? But at the same time, we also have to blame ourselves. It was us who said, this is hot, this is not, this is dope, this is not. This is the problem. We don't place enough blame on ourselves because we started it. We started it. But we were growing in that journey. We were growing up in that journey. We didn't know. We didn't know that this is what it was going to turn into. We thought it was just anti-conformity. We didn't want to be like our parents. Much like you don't want to be like your parents if you're a young person today. But going back on this acute tribalism and hyper-consumerism and instant gratification, most importantly, you can see it even with the casual. Here, I'm going to show you some of the analytics on our very page. Who's watching the casual? And it might amaze you. It might amaze you. A lot of people ask me, yo, I hope, or a lot of people just say, yo, I hope young people are watching this. I'm going to show you who's watching. I'm going to show you. These are the analytics for the casual. Look at 13 to 17 years. Outpaced by 18 to 24 and 25 to 34. 25 to 34 years old is outpacing everybody. Everybody. Our 35 to 44 years old is outpacing everybody. We have people who are 45 to 54 years old outpacing 13 to 17-year-olds. That's the point. Instant gratification. And why? Why is that? It's because this channel is all about discussion. You had a comment just a few days ago where somebody said, yo, just tell me what the hottest sneakers are that are underhyped. F your talk show, bro. It's obviously a younger person. Why? Because we want to know. Don't give me the information. Don't make it into a discussion. Just tell me. So no, young people are not watching the casual in droves, at least in that 13 to 17-year-old range, which is the bulk of what's going on right now. 13 to 17-year-olds, they're the next. 18 to 24, they're still in there. They still have a lot of juice left. But let's remember, it's that 13 to 17-year-old range that wants to be like the cool 18 to 24s. And the 25 to 34s, my range, they're the ones that are just looking at it like, okay, what's going on here? We completely fed into that image when I was younger. We completely fed into it. And by doing so, we unleashed a beast that we did not expect would be the way that it is. So, are young people killing streetwear? Are young hypebeasts killing streetwear? I don't think so. I don't think they're killing it, and I don't think anybody can really kill the movement. But what I do think is that we're standing at the precipice of something new. A time when people say, I'm inspired by myself. And that would have been unfathomable in my generation. Everything today is about being popular. And I get that. And I don't have a problem with that. Because it's their generation to define. And I'm not going to stunt it The only thing that my responsibility as a person who's in the older generation is to become a pseudo leader, so to speak. So that's how I feel about if young Hypebeasts are actually killing streetwear. I know it probably wasn't what you were expecting, but that's what we come to know about the casual. We gotta do the opposite. We really gotta look at the issues. Anyway, I'm gonna open up the floor to the chat. We're gonna go ahead and cut it off. So if you're watching live, you get to actually engage in the chat. If you're not watching live and you're catching this on the second release over there on YouTube, I encourage you to come back. Anyway, keep it locked right here for all of your info on international street fashion and culture from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Going to take a small little break, and we'll be right back. I'll see you guys in a second.